17-year-old suspect accused in a deadly stabbing will graduate from high school. Karmelo Anthony is charged with the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Police say they got into an argument at a track meet last month, which ended with Anthony stabbing Metcalf.
Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of an update related to the Karmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf saga, because Karmelo, despite the fact that he told police at the time that he was arrested that he wasn't the alleged stabber, he definitely did it.
The affidavit shows that when officers arrived, Karmelo Anthony told them he got into an argument with Metcalf, and when the arresting officer said he had the alleged suspect in custody, Anthony replied, "I'm not alleged, I did it."
Has secured a little bit of a victory, a teeny tiny little baby victory, in that the Frisco School District is allowing him to graduate this May based on the idea that had he not attended school for the rest of the year, he would still have all of the requirements to go to graduation, although to be clear, he will not be attending this graduation. And the reason we're going to talk about this is because this is causing a lot of outrage among people who rightfully think that Karmelo Anthony is in fact guilty of first-degree murder against Austin Metcalf. However, I actually don't think that this update on its own is all that crucial to this story, and it doesn't really change any of the facts related to the case, so I think it's important for me to explain why. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
An advocacy group says Anthony completed his credits, allowing him to receive his diploma from Frisco ISD.
So if you're not aware of this case and the controversy that's surrounding it, I just want to say welcome to my channel. I've talked about it multiple different times, and I will link videos that explain each update as we got them in full in the description of this video. But as of right now, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the information. So there is a track meet. During the course of this track meet, a bunch of different schools are competing against one another. It starts raining. During the course of the time that it's raining, Karmelo Anthony decides to go into a tent that is not affiliated with his school. It is affiliated with the school of Austin Metcalf. He is confronted by Austin Metcalf, asked to leave, and Karmelo Anthony decided in his infinite wisdom to pull out a knife, in secret by the way, and then to tell Austin Metcalf to touch him and see what happens.
According to arrest paperwork, Anthony sitting underneath Metcalf's team tent. You could see it from the air when we flew over the crime scene. Metcalf from Memorial High, Anthony from Centennial. A witness telling police Metcalf told Anthony to move from under the team's tent because he didn't go to their school. The witness telling police Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Investigators writing that Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and that Anthony pulled out a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away.
Now, of course, Austin Metcalf, being a 17-year-old boy, gets in this guy's face, and then he is stabbed to death in the heart, and Karmelo Anthony proceeds to run away, throw the murder weapon away, and of course he gets arrested almost immediately, and he starts asking the police whether or not what he did could be considered self-defense.
When officers arrived, the knife was found, and police say Anthony admitted to what happened, but said this to police: "He put his hands on me. I was protecting myself," even asking another officer if what happened could be considered self-defense.
And to be clear, in no way, shape, or form is this in fact a self-defense case. This is one of the most straight-up murders that you can possibly have. You are not allowed to respond to physical force, a regular ordinary fight with deadly force. You shouldn't be bringing weapons to school events like this track event. And of course, we have the element of Karmelo Anthony provoking the encounter, baiting Austin Metcalf into approaching him so he can stab him in the heart. Obviously, Karmelo Anthony is guilty in murder. However, because Karmelo Anthony is black, because Austin Metcalf is white, this has caused racial division in this country, and a bunch of race profiteers are, of course, advocating for Karmelo Anthony. And again, I need to make this clear to everybody out there in the audience. They are not supporting Karmelo Anthony because they think he's innocent, because they don't understand how this is murder. They are supporting Karmelo Anthony because they know he's guilty, and they in fact like the fact that he killed a white teenager. Again, this is exactly what we saw during the O.J. Simpson case, where members of the jury who knew O.J. Simpson was guilty voted not guilty as some kind of racial revenge for Rodney King. Don't believe me? Hear it from the juror yourself.
Do you think that they're members of the jury that voted to acquit O.J. because of Rodney King?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How many of you think felt that way?
Oh, probably 90% of them.
90%? Did you feel that way?
Yes.
That was payback.
Uh-huh.
You think that's right?
So, of course, a bunch of different fundraisers were started for Karmelo Anthony on GoFundMe. They get shut down due to their policy of not raising money for somebody facing trial for a violent crime. Then the fundraiser moves over to Give, Send, Go, and a bunch of people start donating money. And of course, there's a flurry of anti-white comments, and it's being promoted by all these different various race grifters that are trying to pretend that there's a legitimate case of self-defense here, when in no way, shape, or form does the evidence show that. And of course, this fundraiser ended up getting over $500,000, and this is largely due to the fact that, like I said, this has become a racial issue, a revenge against whites issue, but also this is due to the fact that there is rampant misinformation out there, lies about this particular case, and these lies have fooled people despite the fact that these lies are so stupid, so blatantly false, so absurd, so easily refutable, and by the way, have been refuted by Karmelo Anthony's side, the guy who's supposed to benefit from these lies. And of course, they don't actually nerf anything that I've told you about the murder scenario. In fact, a bunch of these lies in the defense of Karmelo Anthony actually set this up even further to have more motivation for the murder, like the myth that the Metcalf boys were actually bullying Karmelo Anthony for a long time, and thus he had the knife to defend himself, which of course actually would indicate that he went there with the plan to murder him, and that's why he ended up showing up under the tent and picking a fight with him. Again, these Facebook posts that are fake have been circulating across the internet. There have been false statements from police officials, false statements from other government officials, all of it fraudulently put out there, including a false autopsy report to try to make it seem like Karmelo Anthony is an innocent Baba Angel Aladdin who didn't do nothing wrong, who was acting in self-defense. But my favorite one, and this gained widespread circulation by a bunch of people in the black leftist media, was this fake witness that sounds so stupid, so uneducated, so unbelievable that it actually defies all logic and reason that people actually platform this person as if he would tell a credible account of the events.
It was raining. It got rained out like crazy bad. Everybody trying to get back to their cars or get in, places where they, wouldn't get all extra wet at. Dude was sitting up under the tent, right? He was on his phone, right? My daughters was up under the same goddamn tent. Yeah. So I'm paying attention to my kids, but at the same time, they're in the same vicinity. So I'm watching everything going on around it because I'm there for my children. So dude walks up, McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent at the time. They came from a whole separate tent and walked over there. They intentionally went over there to this kid, man. Dude was sitting there on his phone just trying to get dry. You feel me? One thing went from another. They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went in his bag and whatever. They went to try to jump this dude and punch on this dude, man. And he protected himself, dude. That's what happened. Yeah. It wasn't just one. It was both of them, bro. Austin, that dude that got unalive, and his brother physically went over there to intentionally. It's not to the point that he brought a knife. For one, it wasn't on school property. The school is at least 5 to 10 miles away. It was community track meet, bruh. It wasn't a school track meet. So he had the right to have a knife on his person, bro.
Look, I know that manufacturing a fake witness to smear a dead kid in order to get racial revenge against white people is disgusting, and it should be the focus of me condemning this fake witness and the people who platformed him. But in reality, one of the things that annoys me the most about this is that he said unalived. He's using that TikTok language that has become way too prevalent on the internet.com, and I find that to be even more disgusting because you're not using the language language that actually speaks to the seriousness of what we're talking about. I'm so tired of hearing people do unalived or SA'd or any of that nonsense, especially on YouTube, where you don't actually get penalized for saying killed, murdered, all of those words that accurately describe what we're talking about. That baby talk needs to be thrown out of here, just like Karmelo Anthony's ridiculous defense. But again, the issue at hand today is whether or not Karmelo Anthony should be able to graduate from high school, considering he has completed all of the credits that would allow him to graduate from said high school. And by the way, this was something that was brought up by his advocate, the guy who has a very sketchy criminal history, in that press conference where they threw Austin Metcalf's father, the victim's father, out of the press conference before they wanted to start it.
But Anthony remains under house arrest and cannot participate in any senior activities. Frisco ISD just released a statement reinforcing that no student who commits a serious criminal offense is permitted to participate in the graduation ceremony.
Now, this is very important for you guys to understand. The Frisco School District in no way, shape, or form is a court of law. They can expel a student for bringing a weapon, especially if that student is Karmelo Anthony, who has a pre-existing history of getting into fights at the school level, as told to us by other students from his campus.
While here at Centennial, students shocked about what happened, that one of their classmates could be charged with such a serious offense. One girl that we spoke with knew Anthony pretty well, that she says, and told us this.
I'm in shock because it's like, I wouldn't expect that from him. I only know him fighting and stuff, like, you know, but to take someone's life is just like a different level.
And based on the way that schools tend to operate, even if the case were actually a legitimate form of self-defense, it would not be unheard of for them to expel somebody, even again, if later on at trial they were proven to be an active self-defender in that situation and they were adjudicated not guilty. That being said, the decision could go either way, and I really genuinely believe that the people who are stirring up a lot of hysteria about this particular ruling have honestly lost the plot, because this has no impact at all whatsoever on whether or not Karmelo Anthony is guilty of the charges that he faces. This does not change any of the math on the ground in terms of the case, and you could make the argument that he would essentially be getting punished for a crime that he hasn't been adjudicated to be guilty of, based on the fact that it is getting a lot of attention and whatnot. However, I do think the real reason he would be getting punished is based off the fact that this occurred at a sanctioned school event and thus violates their policies. But the fact is, Karmelo's school has actually shown to be soft on crime when it doesn't get attention, specifically related to Karmelo Anthony in previous instances. He wasn't really disciplined for the previous physical altercation, the assault situation as described by the media. So the idea that suddenly when it's getting attention, they would discipline him now seems a little bit over the top, even though again, we're talking about a deadly weapon and a murder. So in this particular case, in this particular circumstances, him not being able to walk, him not being able to return to school, him not being able to go to school events, but already having the credits to qualify and get his diploma, it actually doesn't bother me either way, the way that the school decided to make this decision. And again, this was something that this PR team has been lobbying for, has been directing their energy towards. So anything that they decide to direct their energy towards that's not the defense of Karmelo Anthony, I'm actually totally fine with them wasting their time on this. Now look, a lot of people want to make hay of this. A lot of people want to turn this into a controversy because we haven't gotten a lot of crucial updates related to this case in a while, and obviously it's a hot button issue. But what I would say is, imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. Imagine instead of a black criminal who definitely committed murder, who is now claiming self-defense, that these kind of secondary consequences were being enforced against Kyle Rittenhouse, who, despite the way that Karmelo Anthony's representative describes the case, did not actually go with an AK-47 and shoot 3 people in the back.
And all of the people who have claimed whatever their defense was, he should be afforded the same right. Nobody in the public media has one video camera, but we got the video of Kyle Rittenhouse with an AK-47 shooting 3 people in the back. We got that. And he raised more than $2 million publicly, and nobody said anything.
Kyle actually clearly and obviously defended himself. It was caught from every angle on video, but you could have made the argument from a school perspective that because of the media frenzy around him, and by the way, I think Kyle was actually already dropped out of school at this moment in time, that Kyle could have been expulsion worthy, although I still think that Karmelo Anthony has a better case for expulsion, which has nothing to do with whether or not later on he will be adjudicated guilty or not guilty. And that is that Kyle Rittenhouse did not act in any way, shape, or form in anything that was connected to the school that he could have been going to at the time, and Karmelo Anthony brought the deadly weapon, which is a violation of school policy, to a school event and then murdered a student at said school event. So yeah, as of right now, I'm gonna say that this is something that is not worthy of crazy amount of outrage. However, it's something to take note of. It's something to bookmark going forward, because if we see a similar case where maybe there's actually better circumstances with a white defendant, I don't think the school would show that white defendant the mercy and the grace that Karmelo Anthony is being shown. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. Do you agree with my overall assessment that whether or not he gets a high school diploma is kind of immaterial to the overall bigger picture? Or do you think that this is a great textbook example of black privilege, or maybe money privilege? I actually think it's a combination of the two. He has a whole advocacy group and a bunch of people on the left behind him, despite the obvious nature of the crime and the evidence indicating that he's guilty at this moment in time. And of course, that lobbying group is what has been able to reverse the expulsion decision. But again, I also think it's not the biggest deal. As long as we get the conviction, I think that's what matters. And again, my desire for the conviction is based on the evidence as presented right now. If there are some amazing alternate facts that come into play that actually change the circumstances of the case, that actually make this a legitimate self-defense, then I'm still open to it. But as of right now, Karmelo Anthony seems 100% guilty. And by the way, he seems like he's going to go to his high school graduation or get his high school diploma without actually going to his graduation. To be clear, he's still not allowed on the campus. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Karmelo Anthony's latest update. Till next time.